Hello, 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 and welcome to the Kansas City Snap LLC. My name is Mocha Myers, and I am breathing in this good prana, and I'm putting it out to the universe. And I want you guys to receive it, and I want you guys to apply it to your lives as you choose to do so. And I am coming to you today for one. I have to give the biggest shout to the Most High God, because without him I would not be in the position to bring these intelligent individuals to you and talk about the major topics that we have going on here in Kansas City, around the world, and bring your favorite entertainment to you as well. And with me today I have a new sheriff in town. And our new sheriff in town in Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County, is the one and only Sheriff Daniel Soptic. How are you this afternoon, Mr. Soptic?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for being my guest. It's an honor. And as my followers know, and as Kansas City know, we had Sheriff Donald Ash before, and he's now since retired. And we have Sheriff Soptic here that's now here to take his place and to continue what we have going on here on the KUAW radio station, and also to update our community on what's going on in our neck of the woods.
Right.
So how's everything going, and how are you liking your new position?
It's really, really good. I'm enjoying it. We've had a good start, had some stuff to overcome, but we've got a lot of good employees, a lot of good people, and just look forward to serving the community and working for all the great folks in Wyandotte County.
That's amazing. And just for the people that are not familiar with you, can you just explain to them where you come from and just a little bit of your background?
I can. Born and raised here in Wyandotte County. Lived here my entire life. Actually lived in the same zip code from the day I was born till today. Believe it or not, still in the same area of the county. And so I'm a graduate of Turner High School.
Okay.
Went to KCK Community College.
Okay.
And so all my formal education through the community college was all local. And then I actually started with the park ranger department way back when that was a separate agency. And in 2009, we were merged into the sheriff's office under Sheriff Ash. And that brought me to the sheriff's office. Since then, served in many different roles and capacities in the sheriff's office, and then was blessed enough to be able to run and be elected last year. And so sworn in December 13th, and still live in the same area I did before, and I love the community and wouldn't change it for nothing.
What drives you to do with what you do? What motivates you? Is this something that you always wanted to do as a kid? Did you run around with a cowboy hat on and a little toy gun on your side when you were a kid?
So that's funny. I actually talked to a recruit class that we have going on right now, and that was a question I got from a recruit this morning. So that's funny that you asked that. I always wanted to serve my community. And I always wanted to do it in law enforcement.
Yeah.
And as I got a little farther into the profession, I believed that one day I wanted to do that in an administrative role, but I didn't know what that looked like. I just knew that I wanted to be involved in my community, and be able to serve the community where I've always lived, where my family lives, where my family still lives today, and a lot of my extended family lives. So to be able to be involved in Wyandotte County and in law enforcement, and hopefully as an administrator, was always kind of the goal.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily know how that's going to look or what that's going to look like, and this is just the path that I was led down, and very grateful.
Yeah. So what, and just how you worded that, yes, that is very grateful, I must say.
Yep.
What do you think are the biggest struggles that we are dealing with as far as Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas is concerned? What do you think are a couple of the biggest topics that we need to focus on right now?
We've got a lot going on, and I will say, we tend to focus on the negatives, and rightfully so. We need to address them, but I think we have to look at the positives at the same time.
Absolutely.
Some of the negatives are law enforcement, public safety, just in general. We're short. Sheriff's office is short. Police department's short, and so that is a negative. We need more public safety, more law enforcement to address some of those negatives. There's no doubt that we have some drug issues, particularly as it centers around some fentanyl issues and abuse. That's no secret. It shouldn't be.
Right.
And that's something that I know Chief Oakman with the police department's working really hard to address. In his area, the DEA is very much involved in educating and working through that. As I am sure the other cities and police departments are in Wyandotte County, because we do have Bonner, we have Edwardsville.
Right.
I won't speak, for their numbers, but everybody is seeing those upticks, and so those are probably two of our biggest issues at the moment. Mm-hmm. And one of them, they're both very, very, very difficult to deal with. People just really aren't wanting to be in law enforcement like they did before. And so that has obviously led to a shortage. We had COVID, we had lots of things that kind of changed the framework of what that looks like and what people are looking for in jobs. And so that's difficult. And then when it comes to the fentanyl, we're stuck reacting to that, but I know the police department and all of us that are involved in that are really trying to be proactive. Generally speaking, the local police departments are going to be the one that get those kind of initial phone calls as it relates to drug issues. We do get them on occasion, but they're typically the first response to those. And I know all those police departments work really hard and are working hard to try and combat that. But that's a serious issue that we have. That's scary. It's, particularly as it relates to young people and kids. And so we would do anything and work with any of the police departments in any way we can to help augment what they're doing, to help reinforce the message they're putting out. But I think those are probably our two biggest issues at the moment. Mm-hmm.
So for a person that is coming up and the ROTC fellas and all the people that are looking up to you, and they may want to try out to become a police officer on our force in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, how would they go about that?
So there's a couple different ways. Let me back up. So we've worked with the police department in particular in KCK to do some community engagement events.
Yes.
So we've had some at some of our parks. We did one at Parkwood Pool just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Very successful. And then we have one more coming up September 17th.
Okay.
Those are all opportunities for people to come out, ask questions. We're there. KCKPD is there. We're hoping to do some more of those events also with some other jurisdictions in Bonner and Edwardsville, and just get the word out that those jobs are there. So that's one way. You can always, for those younger people that are very tech savvy, they can always hop on our Facebook page, on the website. There's links to all those things there. And then, the good old fashioned come down and just see us in person.
Right.
And we can get you over to HR. That's always an option too. And then we are in the process of working through starting a cadet program. Mm-hmm. So for any law enforcement agency that's looking to hire a police officer / patrol officer, they have to be 21. So one advantage the sheriff's office has is to work in detention, you only have to be 18.
Okay.
So we're working on a cadet program. We're going to pilot it, hopefully with USD 500 first.
Okay.
And we would be looking to bring in some younger kids in their senior, into their senior year, get them interested, get them engaged, get them a part-time job with us, essentially, get them trained up. And when they graduate, they turn 18. If they want to try and convert over to full-time employment, we would have a full-time job for them. So that's one way we're trying to engage with some of our local kids to get them interested and engaged early.
And that'll give them something to do besides getting in trouble. And that's another alternative besides juvenile.
Yeah, what we find when we do backgrounds on people, a lot of times that 18 to 21 time frame, they can't be hired yet by us, so they
Right.
go off and do something else. Either they lose interest or, they find another job that's paying more money, so they don't want to leave. But in some cases, we find that kids will do things in those 3+ years that disqualify them from being able to be employed as a law enforcement officer. They commit some type of crime. They end up caught up in something, and it then disqualifies them. So if we can engage those youth early and keep them engaged and get them on the sheriff's office and working for us earlier, we hope to be able to mentor and guide, those youth, our employees, away from some of that. And then when they turn 21, they would have that ability to switch over and stay with us as a deputy, or maybe go to the police department. So.
And for my young followers, this is all about what Sheriff is speaking of. It's really important to be a leader and not a follower, which, as he spoke of, the certain things that you do can actually affect your life for the rest of your life.
Yep.
And we clearly saw that the other day at at Wyandotte High School.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean,
where did us as a community, parents, teachers, police, where can we talk about that? Where did we go wrong, guy?
I don't know that we can say we went wrong. There's always going to be blame for things like that, and blame
Yes.
placed. Ultimately there are person or persons responsible for that. What I think we have to always impress on our youth is the decisions they make today in the moment
Yes.
can follow them and will follow them the rest of their lives. And depending on what it is or what they've gotten involved with, it could have a huge impact on their employment. It could ultimately it could be the determining factor in what the rest of their life looks like. And it could be something that puts them in a path where they don't get that great job they wanted and that great house and that great car. They don't get to live the life that they saw themselves living because of those choices they made. And the incident at the high school is a perfect example of that.
You think we should have more security? I can't get my mind off of Uvalde. I can't get my mind off of Sandy Hook. What do you think for the people that don't live here in Kansas City, Wyandotte High School is a very large school, and it used to be a women's penitentiary up on years and years ago. So this is a large school with many doors.
Well, there's for many years there's been talk, or there's examples given. Maybe you've heard this before: cop on every corner.
Yeah.
You can't put a cop on every corner.
No, you can't.
And that's kind of what the direction that this leads down is. You can only put so many cops in schools. You can only put so many cops driving around, and so you have to take the measures you can take. And I'll say this, and then when you put those policies in place, you be sure that you follow the policies, and that you hold everybody accountable for all of those policies. And you mentioned Uvalde. If you have a policy that a door is to be shut, then a door is to be shut. If you have a policy that you handle certain people a certain way, then those need to be followed, and that's kids and everybody involved. And so I don't, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody in any of these cases, other than to say cops and the presence of cops only goes so far.
Right.
It eventually takes everybody being engaged in
That's
a process,
right.
And that is the cops, the faculty, or the people involved in wherever this is taking place, the students, the parents. It takes everybody. It's not just a cop problem. It's not just a teacher problem. It's not just, it's an everybody problem. It's a community problem. And so I think there are instances where more security probably is appropriate. But there also comes a time where we have to stop and say, this is an engagement problem, and we don't have everybody engaged. And the schools can only get their staff engaged. We can't make a parent be engaged. We can't make, a kid be engaged. And so that's why it gets so difficult. We only can control what we can control. But as a community, we need to we need to work to assert that community pressure, that peer pressure on those that we know they're not engaged or they're not engaged in the right way, and work towards that, because it takes all of us.
Yeah, it does take a village, and I think we've heard that quite a lot throughout both of our lives.
Yep.
And once upon a time in my life, I didn't quite understand what that meant when I used to hear my mom and her mother say it. And now that I'm further up there in age,
Yeah.
I won't say, unless Daniel tells you his.
Nope.
Well, I'm not saying either.
Okay, deal.
But we've heard that saying quite a lot,
Yeah.
and now we're realizing that what that village and what that explanation really means. And speaking of a village, and speaking of positives and negatives, and turning negatives into positives, I wanted to just touch on the incident that happened in Arkansas with the individual, the police, that did the beating while he was in the handcuffs, and the whole incident was caught on tape. Now, the cops have been suspended, but I don't live in Arkansas. I live in Kansas City, Kansas, and I want to know what are we doing to ensure the community that this is not going to happen in our community amongst our people, black, brown. This individual was brown. The cops were Caucasian. And yes, we do see it a lot within the brown community, but it still happens to the Caucasians as well. So the whole thing in the nutshell is, what are we doing? What is our officers doing to ensure that this is not going to happen here in our backyard?
So I think if any administrator ever could guarantee you that there would never be an issue, that's what we'd all love to do.
Right.
And since we can't, what I can tell you is what we do to the best of our ability, ensure they don't happen. And that, we talked about hiring. Hiring is a big piece of that. So as you have trouble hiring, as you have trouble retaining, the question always comes up: do you sacrifice quality for quantity? And the answer is no, you don't. But when you don't, that leads to other issues too, because now you have less cops to answer calls for service. But it is truly a line that I have taken. You mentioned Sheriff Ash. Sheriff Ash was the same way. We're going to take quality over quantity. And so if that means running short longer to ensure that we're recruiting and hiring quality people, then that's what we're going to do. That makes it very difficult. That makes it difficult on the current employees because they're working with less. But long run, it's better for them. It's better for the community. It's better for all of us. And so that's first and foremost. And then a quick second to that is how we train our folks.
Yes.
And we ensure that they get the training yearly that they need, and quite frankly, over the last few years, that has morphed and changed because of some of these instances and things that have happened. I could never sit in front of a group and guarantee 100% that there will never be an issue, because I don't control a person's actions.
Exactly.
But I do control, to an extent, what happens afterwards. And in the event that we were to have something, the guarantee that the community does have for me is that we're going to handle it. We're going to deal with it. And if there's something that, an action that needs to be taken, if there's, some sort of personnel corrective action, we're going to take it, and we're going to deal with it, and we're going to take it seriously. And there's a lot that goes into that. It's not just that simple, but we're gonna handle it. That's not how we expect our deputies to act. And if and when something's brought to our attention, then we'll act appropriately, and that's the guarantee that everybody has. So while I can't guarantee that we'll never have a bad situation, we definitely will work our hardest to try and ensure that we don't. If and when we'll handle it.
Okay.
So
diversity classes is something that would not be turned down amongst our officers, so they will be able to understand each other as individuals, as people that will be able to understand each other's people.
Sure, yeah, just the differences in people.
Just the differences
Yeah.
in people, like
Yeah.
what was that, the diversity film they would show with the little girl with the brown hair, the brown head kids and the blue-eyed kids and the brown-eyed kids. You remember that back in the day?
Yeah, old video. Yeah.
So
yeah.
that was a really big, diverse lesson. Now, here we are, 2023. That's an old lens, new lens. So
Yeah, so we actually have had conversations with several groups in the community about what that would look like, and not just diversity training or videos, but real conversations.
yeah, real conversations.
with our staff to understand the differences and why somebody may react a certain way to law enforcement. So absolutely.
So that's something that you guys would be open to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
and that's stuff that's currently in the works now.
So I might have a couple of people that you guys would probably be interested in that would probably be more than happy to help you guys along that journey to help get that out to the nation and to our state.
Okay.
Because we can't just, we're the sunflower state. We can't be living under the show me state. Mayor, hint, hint, mayor, Kansas City, Kansas.
Yep.
Tyrone.
Yep. No, we're definitely up for that.
Now, the last but not least,
Sure.
the sex trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to touch on that. We're one of the main states they come through. It's coming from upstate Baltimore, D.C. down through Kansas City. A lot of our children are coming up missing. Some of them we're not finding. The ones that sometimes we do find, they're gone. I know it starts at home. A lot of our parents tend to forget that your child does not live in the club. Your child lives at a residential address. And that's where it starts at. And if we don't keep in contact and communication with our children, then the world will raise our children. And therefore, it's so important for us to check our children's phone. I'm gonna be the first to say, a few weeks ago, I checked my daughter's phone, and I'm like, who is this Astrid? Mom, it's my friend. Okay, we've been to Dallas to bury our grandmother. You haven't been anywhere else. So what type of friends who is your friend? So when my family comes in town and we're looking, they're looking through her phone, the Astrid has talked my daughter in to turning on her location. They have their location on. Guess where they were at, Sheriff? They were in Cairo.
Really?
So for 2 weeks, really up until now, I've had to calm myself down because I don't know how long it's been like that. You know, I'm looking at it. She has an apple. You can see the movement.
Right.
And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Right.
So who knows what would have happened if I hadn't actually got in that phone.
Yep.
They're using animes for instead of their actual picture. And I'm dropping hints to the parents out there. They're using long names with underscores. So you don't know who's who. You don't know if you're a kid. You don't know if it's a man, it's a woman. You don't know anything. Then I came across a conversation with my niece, and my daughter is actually, my niece is telling my daughter to change the code. Listen to this, parents. My daughter asked her, well, what's the code? And my niece goes, well, the code is, and she gave my daughter the code, which was our zip code. Now, who thinks of something like that? So what can we do?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, technology is amazing. We all live and die by our phones. You know, it's a great thing, but on the flip side, it's scary for parents in particular.
Yes.
And I think everything you mentioned, you know, we talked about being engaged earlier. As a parent, being engaged with your kids, knowing where they are, who they're with, what they're doing. You know, kids as they grow up want more freedoms, and I think those freedoms are earned as they, you know, are able to prove that they can handle that. But there's still some oversight that as a parent you have to have.
Right.
And just being able to educate them early on some of this stuff. You know, it's things that when we were growing up, our parents never had to talk to us about.
Right.
And, you know, they're awkward conversations, they're difficult conversations, but they're needed. Just like we talked about, you know, fentanyl and some of those things, those are needed conversations so that the kids understand.
Yeah.
I think just being engaged parents. And then for those kids that, you know, that we know that don't have the engaged parents, or the kids that are in situations where maybe they don't have, you know, parental units that are really available. You know, maybe there's lots of different scenarios.
Yeah, it can be a single parent home.
Could be many different
things. It can be all type of things going on.
I think as a community, as we see that, lending that same guidance to those kids. You know, not parent them, because we're not necessarily
we're not
their
their parents, right?
But there's nothing wrong with educating.
Yeah.
And you know, if your daughter has a friend over and maybe you know that friend might lack in some education, educate them both at the same time.
Exactly.
It doesn't hurt. You know, obviously keep it within the boundaries of what's right, you know, for the situation. But I think as a community, we have to educate our youth. You know, in the detention center, you mentioned sex trafficking. We watch for certain things when we have inmates or arrestees come in that, you know, might signal to us that they're part of something, because we've seen it there as well. So you're 100% right. Again, being engaged, you know, see something, say something mentality, that's huge.
Right.
We don't know what we don't know.
That's
and
right.
So if people don't report it, if people just, you know, shrug it off, we'll never know. And by the time we find out, it might be too late.
Yep. Because back when we were growing up, what did our parents say? What goes on in this house?
Yep. Stays in this house.
And see,
Yep.
that's what needs to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, technology has changed a lot of how we live our lives. There's things that people put out now that we never would have. I mean,
Right.
who'd have thought you'd take pictures of your food,
Right.
and put it out on social media? And so there's a lot that goes on that never went on before. And so I think if we're going to utilize technology, let's use it for the good too,
Yeah.
and help to educate and you know, make our kids think.
I think that was the best way to end this show, to tell the people to make their children think. Now, you have to think too. That don't mean get on Facebook real quick and tell your kid, okay, go ahead, I want you to hear. No. We have to engage. We have to put our devices down as well.
Yep.
Because we're leading and they're following us. When we think they're not watching is when they're actually watching us. And that's that's what parents tend to forget. You know, we see it all the time. You know,
Yep.
I see kids on TikTok, you know, smoking a cigarette saying, oh, I'm stressed. And they're 8 years old. What are you stressed about? Smoking a cigarette.
Right.
Don't do drugs. I'm like, are you kidding me, kid? But this child is only doing a replication of what they're seeing at home.
Yeah, or seeing somewhere. Right.
Yeah. So it's very important for us to keep in interaction with our children.
Yeah.
So, you guys, as I was telling the sheriff before we came on, I have some 100 ways to manage stress, and I just wanted to say three of them before we end this. But before I do so, I have to ask the sheriff. Our initials are KUAW. Knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Knowledge, what does that mean to you?
To me, knowledge is what your information level on a topic. So the amount of information you have on one particular topic, that's your knowledge.
And the understanding?
How you apply that knowledge, how you apply it, and how you perceive it when you're taught it, I guess.
And wisdom. Where does that wisdom come from?
I think wisdom is, as you learn knowledge and as you gain knowledge in things and as you live life, how you apply past lessons and things that you've learned, and the good and the bad and the do's and the don'ts. That's the wisdom that you bring to something.
Wow. One of the stress is learn to say no.
That's a good one.
Visualize a relaxing scene.
Mm-hmm.
Stay clutter-free. Stretch. And read a good book.
There you go.
Okay, so those are your tips for the day. Sheriff Soptic.
Yes.
It was a pleasure, my friend.
Yes, it was. Thank you so much.
We are going to be checking back in maybe later on in the year, beginning of the year, so we can see how warm the sheriff has gotten his seat, how the community has warmed up to him, how they're taking him. We'll do that at probably after the primaries in November, like New Year's. Just give us a woosah out of 2022 and start fresh with 2023. What do you think?
Sounds good.
And then maybe we can do a little tag teaming with the mayor and the district attorney and the chief, and we just have a good old round table.
That'd be great.
So I just want to thank you for just taking out your time and speaking to the Kansas City Snap followers and visiting KUAW radio station. And we are always, our doors are always open to you, and we would love for you to come back and check out our robotics program that we have here with our children, because that's something that's amazing, that's important and dear to not only my heart but to the owner as well of this radio station.
Well, I appreciate the invite, and my door is always open as well, so thank you.
This is the Kansas City Snap. I'm Mocha Myers. I'm breathing in that good prana. Not only myself, but Daniel as well. We're putting it out to the universe, and we want you guys to receive it and apply it to your lives as you choose to do so. Kansas City Snap, over and out. Ciao.
Awesome.